Chair. Am I correct that voter registration systems are entirely exempt from your purview and recommendations? Is that correct?
We provide best practices, but we don't certify voter registration systems. That's correct.
So you supply voluntary best practices. Don't you think that registration systems and voting systems are inextricably intertwined? Perhaps you could make a recommendation to this committee that we might want to consider further discussion of the issue of the security of registration systems. Anybody? Sir.
Senator King, I think that's a great idea. Coming from the state,
Could the record show what he just said? I like that. Go ahead.
coming from the states are obviously very interested in making sure that their statewide voter registration systems are secure and accurate, pursuant to HAVA. The EAC has conducted a number of studies on interoperability and accuracy of voter registration systems. It may be something that the EAC could play a role in auditing or providing some recommendations to the states, but that would require change to HAVA to allow the EAC to play that role. I believe we're a trusted actor, dealing with states, and as a former director and secretary in Virginia, I believe that would be sort of a positive approach that the EAC could take. And so I believe that's a good idea.
Thank you. Madam Chair, how many full-time people do you have working on certification of voting machines?
Right now we have 2. We've just hired 2 more. One has resigned effective the end of this week, so we'll have 3.
And the ranking member mentioned that you were certifying to a 2005 standard. Is that true?
So the voluntary voting systems guidelines were originally created in 2005, which is we call VVSG 1.0.
Right.
When Commissioner Hicks and I joined the commission at that time in 2015 passed an update to that set of requirements since they had not been updated in a long time.
And is that what's being used for current certifications?
So no manufacturer has brought in a system to be certified under what we call 1.1. And then we're in the process of setting the new standards 2.0. But all of the systems out there now are certified to 1.0 and not to 1.1.
Which is 2005.
Correct.
Do you think that's a problem?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
We're trying to remedy that, Senator.
There was an Office of Personnel Management review of the operation of the EAC in September through February 18. Without going into the content, are you all aware of that study? Have you been seeing copies of it? Has it been distributed to senior management in the agency?
So we were provided a redacted copy last week when when Commissioner Hicks
when was the study completed?
I'm not sure exactly when. Sometime in the past year.
February of 2018. Why in the world the mail isn't that slow? Why did you just get it last week?
The commissioners do not have any part of hiring at the commission. That is in the
But you're
purview.
concerned with how the agency's managed, are you not?
We are, and we asked for the executive director to partner with OPM to review the resources that we had available to us, and which are obviously much
So
fewer.
when did the executive director get this study?
That I don't know.
Would you like to know?
Sure.
Doesn't
I would
it
love to.
bother you that you just got it last week? It was completed in February. That strikes me as...
He told us that he had received it and that they were working on the recommendations in
But he
there.
didn't give you a copy.
No.
I don't understand that. As you're the managers, you're the board of directors of this organization, to not care about a major study of the operation of the organization, which my understanding is was not very complimentary.
Well, we were briefed on what he was doing, and we do not involve ourselves in the hiring process. HAVA specifically.
This isn't hiring, this is managing. I'm not talking about
Had to
hiring.
do with restructuring the personnel in our office, and I feel that may have some political implications, and we thought that it was best to leave it up to the executive director to decide that. He manages the staff on a day-to-day basis. We do not, and it is not policy.
I would add, I was asking for that and was glad to finally receive it. we had previously
Instead of current events, it's now history.
I think one of the important things, or one of my big takeaways on it, was both that OPM flagged that, number one, that we don't have the resources we necessarily need to meet our statutory obligations.
Yeah, 3 people to certify all the voting machines in America doesn't sound like adequate staff to me.
That is correct, Senator. And the other part I would add is that while I think there are important things in that report that we should address and absolutely need to be held accountable for, I think one of the real challenges that our agency has faced is for the better part of the last decade, we have been a political football and we've had our funding continually cut. And when you look at, actually, Mr. Chairman, I was in Kansas City last week and I was telling someone about the status of our budget. Our operating budget was $7.95 million for this fiscal year, and they couldn't believe it. And they said, we spend $8 million on potholes in Kansas City. And I thought, that can't be true. So I Googled it. By the way, there's a lot out there on potholes in Kansas City, but they're on top of it. They're doing a great job. But they recently upgraded their budget to $17 million for street maintenance in Kansas City. And that's a little beyond potholes. That's also mowing and things like that. But the point is, what we're working on and what we're working on with our state and local partners is the infrastructure of our democracy. And so what we need is an investment from Congress to help us do that work and to be able to restore us to the levels that we were at in 2010, where we had 49 employees. That gives us so much more capacity to help state and locals do the extremely difficult job they have.
I appreciate that, and I'll support that
Thank you.
change. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.